Welcome everyone, good morning. Welcome to our event, Language is a Human Right. Our book fair director Jürgen Boos was supposed to speak today. Unfortunately, he's not feeling very well. So he sends his best regards to every one of you. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Ines Bachor. I'm a PR manager from the book fair team, and I will try to do my best to fill in for him today. Welcome. I'm glad to see so many faces here at this early time on the Friday morning. And I would like to especially welcome our participants of today's panel, the authors Yegana Jabarova, Patricia Evangelista, Matilda, and Nedim Turfand. Welcome. They will all be sharing their personal perspectives on Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights with us today. I would also like to thank our colleagues from the United Nations who organized this panel in cooperation with us. Under Secretary General for Global Communications, Melissa Flemming, who will be speaking later to you today, and also from UN Publications, Mary Glenn, Irina Lumansky, and Antje Waterman. Thanks so much. There are over 6,500 languages in this world, and 4,000 of them are indigenous, and extinction threatens half of them. The French author and sociologist Frantz Fanon once said, "To speak a language is to take on a world, a culture. Languages reflect the history and the culture of a society, and they are also a central means of power, also especially if you think of colonial contexts. Languages help us understand our origins. They help us understand who we are. Speaking one's language is what enables us to express our opinions and to stand up for ourselves, for our loved ones. That is why it is so important to appreciate the plurality of languages. The harmony of an orchestra does not come from simplicity, but from the diversity of voices." The Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which will be in focus today, states, "Everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression." This is a promise, and here in Frankfurt at the book fair, we're working on fulfilling it. We offer literary voices a stage and have them their say. And now, before we move on, I would like to encourage you to do something that might be a bit difficult in the hustle of the fair. To pause for a moment and to listen carefully to the orchestra of languages here on the fairgrounds. You will hear voices from over 200,000 people from more than 100 countries around the world. Here, the world is coming together, and we discuss the challenges of our time together and come together for thoughts and inspirations for the future. I wish us all an inspiring discussions, and now I would like to hand over to Under Secretary General Melissa Flemming. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ines, and great to be here, everyone. Words are keys to our world, unlocking the past, opening doors to the future, and casting light on all that makes us human. We're here today to celebrate a group of courageous authors. Courageous authors from all over the world, writers who are telling their truths, their stories, restoring dignity to the unheard, bringing facts to light. These are brave writers. They're brave people because they write when violence silences others, when power criminalizes speech itself, offering words of resilience and words of resistance, even from inside a jail cell. This month at the United Nations, we are marking an important milestone. 8 decades ago, during World War II, humanity came far too close to destroying itself. The Holocaust, the devastation of Europe, all made possible by demagogues who who hijacked language, whipped up by whole societies in hate, dehumanized others, and sought to erase millions from the face of the earth. And afterward, in the rubble of the old world, leaders met in San Francisco to say, never again, and to write the UN's founding document, the UN Charter, which we have displayed on the screen today. That's its cover. Choosing their words carefully, they pledged to work together to avoid war and to, I quote, reaffirm the faith in fundamental human rights, in the dignity and worth of the human person, in the dignity and worth of the human person. And 3 years later, the Universal Declaration on Human Rights expanded that idea. And this is another quote, and I love this phrase. It opens, all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. A bold statement. At the time, some may have said it was a radical statement. We see it as a golden rule for humanity, that we all belong to one human family. And today we celebrate those rights. As we have heard, Article 19 also guarantees the right to freedom of opinion and expression. And there is a second part to that article of Article 19 that is often overlooked, and it guarantees the freedom to seek, to receive, to impart information and ideas through any media and regardless of frontiers. That is exactly what these brave writers are doing. Language, words, the key that unlocks information, the key that unlocks those ideas. Language, a human right. Today, those rights are under attack worldwide. Freedom House says just 20% of humanity live in a free society, just 20%. And that number is getting smaller year after year for the past 20 years. And on the front line of this shrinking of the space of freedom of expression and freedoms in general are authors. Voices silenced, words censored, languages suppressed, books banned. Record numbers of journalists killed for telling the truth. This as words once again are twisted to pit people against each other. Hateful rhetoric that distorts, that deceives, that also polarizes. We're seeing minorities othered, women silenced, refugees vilified. Human rights defenders cut down for standing up. The UN, too, is under attack, but we are more determined than ever. And that is why I am here, and I'm very proud to be standing here representing the United Nations at the Frankfurt Book Fair, because we have to join forces to embrace and embody our founding values, which are so aligned, to stand with the most vulnerable people on earth and to leave no one behind. Because we have a vision, and that is a world where everyone can express themselves freely without fear of attack, and where also the most reliable and accurate information is the most accessible and not the other way around. And we are not alone. The more we uphold our principles, the more people turn to us to join forces. We're seeing the more the dark side or the more backsliding comes around, the more people are turning to us, especially when we offer words in defense of human rights. And we repeat this message that we all belong. So we're appealing to you, to the authors here, to the publishers here, and also readers. You hold the words. Books have great power. Books can change hearts and minds, and they do invite readers to walk a mile in other person's shoes. And so I've been saying here, I've been giving many talks to publishers, please also prioritize stories that raise the voices of those who are generally unheard. Build bridges of understanding and tear down barriers, because together we believe words can unlock a better tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Melissa, and thank you so much, Ines, for your wonderful words, and thank you so much for UN Publications for putting together this wonderful event that highlights, of course, that the attacks on freedom are global and are viral at the moment, but so are the defenders of freedom. They are all here, and I really very much enjoy sharing this panel with 4 remarkable writers. Where you are from, what you're doing, the writing is being criminalized, and you're still doing it. You are making all of us collaborators in your crime, which is wonderful, because this is what we actually have to do. We have to join forces to actually uphold our rights for expression and freedom. This event will have 2 parts, more or less. We will now hear from each one of you some excerpts of your writing, because this is what it is about. And then we will enter into a small exchange also about your writing and about your work and life. And to start it out, I'm very happy to announce Yegana Jabarova. She is a poet and a writer born to an Azerbaijani family in Yekaterinburg in Russia. She had to leave Russia in 2024 and now lives in exile in Hamburg. Her writing revolves around the voices and the role of women, violence in society, and oppression of traditions and identity. The hands of the women in my family were not meant for writing. This is the title of her debut novel that has also been published in German. Die Hände der Frauen in meiner Familie waren nicht zum Schreiben bestimmt. And she will read to us an excerpt now. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you. And first of all, of course, I would like to thank everyone for the invitation. It's truly an honor to me to be here. And of course, my heartfelt thanks go to the entire Zollner team and to the publisher Bettina for the book from which I will be reading an excerpt. And before I begin, I would say a few words about language in which I write. I mean Russian language. And in the current political moment, this choice calls for a brief explanation. I believe that tricksters and members of diasporas and linguistic minorities and indigenous people whose own language were once severed by empire or even destroyed have right to write in this language, but to do so in a way that transforms it, that shifts its weight, that charges it with new meanings to make Russian not Russian. And this is the position from which I approach the language, and this is why I'm reading today in Russian. В душных бакинских квартирах двоюродных сестер мы завороженно смотрели турецкие клипы. На голубые глаза турецких актрис или поп-исполнительниц, с грустью отмечая, что в нашем роду не было таких глаз. У нас не было общих тем для разговора. Мы с сестрой плохо говорили по-азербайджански, а двоюродные не говорили по-русски. Поэтому единственное, что мы могли делать вместе, это смотреть. Смотреть на вещи, комнаты, книги и экран телевизора. По сути, мы хотели переписать историю рода так, чтобы в ней оказались далекие голубоглазые красавицы, порабощенные преимущественно из-за своей красоты и нетипичной внешности. Чтобы когда-то пережитое насилие сделало нас необычными, выделило из толпы себе подобных и включило в сообщество других красивых девочек. Но почему красота оказалась неотделима от насилия? И почему одна женщина должна была поработить другую, чтобы стать нормативной? В какой-то момент идея сделать глаза не карими поглотила меня полностью. Я с грустью перелистывала фотографии журналов, где у актрис и моделей были, конечно, голубые глаза. С грустью наблюдала за одноклассницами, у которых были голубые глаза. Я решила, что обязательно должна переделать свои глаза, вырасти и купить самые голубые линзы из всех возможных, чтобы мои глаза наконец перестали быть карими. Мне хотелось, чтобы они, если бы и стали голубыми, то хотя бы были похожи на отцовские. У отца глаза медово-карие с зеленоватым оттенком. Как я не пыталась внушить себе, что цвет моих глаз не карий, или накраситься, подобрав нужный цвет теней, глаза оставались карими. Но однажды я случайно разревелась, сидя напротив зеркала, и когда глянула на свое отражение, заметила, что глаза стали немного светлее. В них появился отлив медового зеленым, как у отца, только он не был таким выраженным, практически незаметным. Наконец я успокоилась. Все же они не совсем карие, в них есть зеленоватый оттенок, правда, появлялся он только после долгих слез. Глаза становились светлее только в минуты отчаяния, словно страдание было отбеливателем, необходимой платой за красивое. Голубым был даже домашний гёзмэнджук, или, как его называют некоторые мамы, око сатаны, главный атрибут любого азербайджанского дома. Голубой глаз с маленьким черным зрачком посередине. Именно его вешали в каждом доме над входной дверью, чтобы никого из членов семьи не сглазили. Булавки с бусинами в виде глаза можно было увидеть на одежде детей. В небольших магазинах и в мастерских местных художников Вечари Шахар глаз сатаны висел напротив входа. С раннего детства я помню, что самым страшным, что могли сделать чужие люди, был сглаз. А потому все женщины семьи знали несколько способов уберечь от него себя и любимых. Помимо маленького глаза в ходу был и узерлик. Без этой травы дом будто бы не был домом. Как только последний гость закрывал за собой дверь, мать доставала щедрый пучок узерлика, поджигала его в чаше. Приятнее и интереснее запаха я не ощущала за всю жизнь. Он был таким одурманивающим, густым, плотным, интригующим. Во всем мире не было места безопаснее, чем густые клубы узерлика. Мать окутывает тебя дымом и повторяет: «Пизгёзляр партасын, пизгёзляр королсун». Каждый раз, когда сухая головка могильника лопалась, мать утверждала, что это лопаются глаза завистников. Дурными глазами объясняли практически любое несчастье в доме, любая беда происходила по вине этих глаз. И было неважно, голубые глаза или карие, главное, добрые они или злые. Хотят ли они, чтобы красивое было красивым, а здоровое – здоровым. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and also for making the point of reclaiming this language of Russian. For everyone who wants to also read the texts in English translation, you can always scan this QR code that you see here, and you can maybe read now or read later the translation. And now I have the very big pleasure of announcing Matilda. I'm really, really happy for having you here. She's a surgeon and author and a human rights advocate, and has spent many years in prison. In fact, in 1993, she was convicted to 20 years in prison for being a human rights activist and a writer in Myanmar. She was released in 1999, and over the years she's assembled numerous human rights awards and also recognitions for her writing. So thank you so much for being here. The stage is yours.
I'm really grateful to be invited here. And to the war, my language, Burmese, is a minority language, so I proudly speak in my own Burmese language to read from my prison memoir original. And you can read through the QR code. I was in prison and I have 6 months consecutive fever. My body weight was only 80 pounds. So at that time, I have to fight against the jail authority to have a proper medical treatment. The ASAP is from that session. ဒါကဒီဆေးတွေသုံးပြီးတေးချောင်းကြံတာမျိုးလုံးမှာဆိုလို့ပါဆေးအကြောင်းနားလည်နေတော့အဲ့ဒီလိုလှုပ်ချင်ရတယ်လေဟုထောင်ပိုင်းလေးဦးအောင်လွင်ကလေးသန်းအေးအေးနှင့်ပြန်ပြောသည်โอเคကျမအတွက်ဆွေးနွေးနိုင်မည့်အဖို့ကောင်းကိုရှာတွေ့ပြီဖြစ်ရလေအန်ကယ်ဟုကျမကအစချီလိုက်သည် ထောင်မှာဆရာတို့ထောင်မိုင်တို့ခေါ်ပြီးစကားပြောရယူထုံးစံကိုကျမကမလုပ်ချင်သဖြင့်သူ့ကို uncle ဟုသုံးလိုက်သည်ယဉ်နီးမှုနှင့်စာနာမှုကိုလည်းရယူခြင်းသည်ကျမကကိုတတ်သေးချင်မှတော့ခက်ရိုင်းရိုင်းပြောရရင်ဒီအင်္ဂလိပ်နေရန်ပတ်လေအခန်းထဲမှာကိုလုံးဒီထားရင်တောင်နေရန်နဲ့ခေါင်းနဲ့တိုက်ပြီးတတ်သေးလိုက်လို့ရနေတာပဲကျမဖြစ်နေတဲ့ပြဿနာကရှင်ချင်းနေတာပါတေချင်းနေတာမဟုတ်ပါဘူးစနစ်တကျဆေးကုသခွင့်မရဘဲနေရင်သေသွားမှာဆိုလို့ဒီနှစ်ချက်ကိုတောင်းဆိုနေတာပါအန်ကယ်ကျမအတန်တွေတည်ငြိမ်လာပြီတကယ်တော့အန်ကယ်တို့ဒီလိုလုပ်နေတာကိုကကျမကိုမသေးသေးအောင်တတ်တယ်လို့ဖြစ်နေတာဒါကြောင့်အကျိုးဆက်ကိုထောင်ကတာဝန်ယူရမယ်လို့ကျမပြောခဲ့တာပဲဟုတ်ပါပြီလေဒါကိုနားလည်ပါတယ်ဆေးတွေကိုတော့မသိမ်းတော့ပါဘူးဒါပေမဲ့ဆရာဝန်မကြီးရဲ့ကုသမှုကိုဘာလို့ညင်းရတာလဲသူကဟိုမှာငိုးတောင်နေတယ်စိတ်မကောင်းလွန်းလို့ဆိုပြီးထောင်မိုင်လေးကဆက်ပြောသည်ကျန်အရာရှိတွေလည်းတောင့်တောင့်တင်းတင်းရက်နေသည့်အနေအထားမျိုးမှမရှိကြတော့အန်ကယ်စဉ်းစားကြည့်ပါဆရာဝန်တယောက်အနေနဲ့နောက်ဆရာဝန်တယောက်ရဲ့ဆေးကုသမှုကိုမခံယူနိုင်ပါဘူးလို့ညင်းရတာဟာအင်မတန်စိတ်ထိခိုက်ကြေကွဲစရာပါကျမတကယ့်ကိုမလုပ်ချင်ဆုံးအလုပ်ဒါပေမဲ့ဒီကိစ္စကကျမရဲ့တည်ရေးရှင်ရေးဖြစ်နေတယ်သူ့ဆေးကုသမှုဟာကျမရဲ့အသက်အန္တရာယ်ကိုအမှန်တကယ်ပဲထိခိုက်နေတယ်ကျမဘက်ကပေးတဲ့အကြံတွေအားလုံးကိုသူဘယ်တော့မှလက်မခံဘူးဒီတော့ဒီအတိုင်းဆက်သွားရင်ကျမရှင်လန်းမမြင်ပါဘူးဒီလိုပါအန်ကယ်ကျမတခုမေးမယ်အန်ကယ်ကိုအန်ကယ်မိသားစုဆရာဝန်က6လအတွင်းသေမယ်ဆိုရင်အန်ကယ်ဘယ်လိုလုပ်မလဲထိုအချိန်မှာကျမတို့အားလုံးအတော်ကြီးတက်တောင့်တက်တာရှိနေကြပြီဖြစ်သည်ဟာကျွန်တော်လားသွားကျင်တဲ့နေရာရှောက်သွားလိုက်စီမယ်ဗျာစားကျင်တာတွေရှောက်စားမှာပေါ့ဗျာဟုပေါ့ပါပါဖြေသည်အားလုံးကပြုံးစီစီကျမသာအန်ကယ်နေရာမှာဆိုရင်အဲ့ဒီလိုမလုပ်ဘူးအန်ကယ်အပြုံးမှာအတိတ်ပဲထဲ့ပြီးကျမကဗဟေရီကိုစလိုက်သည်ဘလို့ဘလို့မှာတော့ဗျနောက်ဆရာဝန်တယောက်ပြောင်းပြမှာပေါ့အန်ကယ်နောက်ဆရာဝန်ကကျမကိုနောက်6လအတွင်းသေမယ်လို့ပြောချင်မှပြောမှာပေါ့ခက်အုပ်အုပ်ရေတံကိုကြားရသည်သူကိုယ်တိုင်ကတော့ဟာဟုအာပါတရရေလိုက်သည်အဲ့ဒါပါပဲအန်ကယ်ကျမဆရာဝန်ပြောင်းပြခြင်းနဲ့နောက်6လအတွင်းမှာမသေးဘူးလို့ပြောမဲ့ဆရာဝန်ပြောင်းပြခြင်းတာပါဒီလိုလုပ်ပါဆရာပဲကျမကိုဆက်ကြည့်သွားပြီးပါဒါဆိုကျမလက်ခံပါတယ်ကျမကဆရာကြီးပဲလှည့်ပြီးပြောလိုက်သည်ဒီလိုရှိတယ်မတ်တီရာရဲ့မတ်တီရာကလွတ်လပ်ပါတယ်ဗျထောင်မိုင်လေးကတက်ပြင်းမြင်းကိုခိုးချရင်မျက်လွှာချပြီးပြောလိုက်သည်မတ်တီရာကလွတ်လပ်ပါတယ်မတ်တီရာကလွတ်လပ်ပါတယ်မတ်တီရာကလွတ်လပ်ပါတယ်ကျမနားထဲမှာပဲ့တင်ထပ်လာသည်တောက်ခတ်ထားသည့်တိုက်ခန်းတကားကိုလက်ဖြင့်ပုတ်ရင်းကျမကဘာကိုဆိုလိုတာလဲအန်ကယ်ဒီတကားတွေနောက်က12ပေပတ်လေအခန်းထဲမှာတနေ့ကို23နာရီနဲ့15မိနစ်ပိတ်ထားခံရတဲ့ကျမကလွတ်လပ်တဲ့လားကျမကသူဘာဆိုလိုချင်နေမှန်းရိပ်မိလျက်မေးပြအောင်မေးလိုက်သည် Thank you so much
Thank you so much. And next is Nedim Türfend. He's a Kurdish journalist and author. He also spent years in prison, over 6 years in prison, for covering the human rights abuses against Kurdish people in Turkey, especially in the bordering region to Iraq. He was exposed a lot to the police brutality also, which he also covered against Kurdish workers. And through this covering in a journalistic way, he also worked a lot as a poet in a very, I must say, your language is really, really warm and soft and in a sharp contrast of the violence he's actually reporting on as a journalist. He is now living in exile in Germany, and just recently, 2 months ago, Turkish authorities published another arrest warrant against him just for posting articles on Twitter, amongst them one Le Monde article that had a picture of Öcalan in it. So there was another arrest warrant. I'm very happy you're here today and you will be sharing some of your reading. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. It's really fascinating to be here. I will read a poem in my mother tongue, in Kurdish. Maybe you will not understand any single word, but millions of Kurdish kids, when they go to primary school, they do not understand a single word of Turkish language. So human rights in the source of education in mother tongue is really important. I want to draw attention on this. Canu canavar, em tercalin xwane, em xwe ji bihuş xwe davêjin. Ez kî me? Rengê min ê cîhanê heye, dengê min, zimanê min. Mazlum jî ez im, zalim jî. Yê tê kuştin jî, ê tê guje jî. Ez bi qasî obloma û tiral, bi qasî xozet xîzan, bi qasî devrêşê evdî fedakarim. Hin caran dibim Don Quixote, hin caran jî dibim Bobby Sands. Li Riyadê bi zorî burka li xwe dikim, li Kievê dibim Femen. Li Kamberê ji Maksagora dayîka xwe rizgar dibim, li Moskowayê dergûş bi dergûş radizêm. Li Dublinê pirtûkxane û mûze, li Sanayê gor bi gor digerim. Li Tokyoyê sed salekê dijîm, li Bexdayê kamil bibim, çi kêfxweşî ji min re. Li aliyekî min helbeskar e, li aliyekî min qetil. Li New Yorkê bavê pereyanim li vir karker û parya. Kapitalistim û komînvan. Li Katalonyayê şoreşker, li Madridê statûkoparêzim. Li Glasgowê li saksafonê dixim temenê min 66, li Kabulê nan dizim temenê min 6. Li Ottawayê ji xwarinê, ji Mogadîşoyê ji birçîna dimirim. Li Buenos Airesê ez dayîka Plaza de Mayo me li Amerîkaya Latîn gerîlla. Hûn dixwazin navê me bikin Sîfî, dixwazin jî Mephisto an Sisyphos. Dilê min carna bi qasî dilên xwişkên Mirabel mezin e. Li Stenbolê wekî hêran bifikarim, navê min Auschwitzê bipirsin Elîvîzel e. Aylan Kurdiyê Kobanê me. Li Christchurchê oldarekî fanatik li min dide. Li Sûriyê balafira fe nizanim çi. Di pençeyê Firavûnê dike Filîstîniyekim. Dibin sêmê Führerî da cihûyek. Zordestî ez im, tîran jî. Dagir dikim û talan dikim. Gotin di cih de be, ez demokrasî û azadiyê hildigirim. Lê di bingehê vê de, ez di koloniyan da terorîstan ava dikim. Ez ji Erîvanê me, ji Rojava me, ji Myanmarê me, bi Maorikî û bi Kurdî de axivim. Zima min ê Rwandayê li Fransê bipirsin. Ez xeda û xedawend û hemû zindîveran im, nete û dewletan ji tenebûnê çê dikim û ev tên min tune dikin. Ez sadîstim, narsîstim, ji dêr, mizgeft û di hevrayê derdikevim û dibim müdavîmê Hades û rêviyê Nîrvanayê. Penaberekî li dîvarê ve dikevim, ez di taziya kîmpûk de direvim, ji barbariyê. Yê xûnê dirijîne jî, ê can ji distîne ez im, can jî ez im, canavar jî. Kulmek avasar bavê ser rûyê min. Ez kî me? Yê li ser erdê doje û bihuştê bi hev re afiran diye, noturvanê tarî û runahiyê, ez mirov im, ez mirov bixeme. Hindur ev dermê min nakokî. Nakokiyekî pir yeman e. Thank you.
Thank you. And in this poem, actually, you were talking about how we are all human, how we can be the dark and we can be the light as well. It's wonderful, and we will talk about this in a moment. But now, last but not least, of course, we are eager to hear from you, Patricia Evangelista. very fierce Filipino journalist who has been reporting on the crimes of the Duterte regime. She is a trauma journalist and investigative reporter for the Philippine news company Rappler that was founded by Nobel Peace Laureate Maria Ressa. Her reporting on armed conflict and disaster was awarded many awards and recognitions. Her book, Some People Need Killing, she's also representing it here at the book fair for Philippines as the guest of honor. And this is also a book that covers this terrible war on its own people by the Duterte regime, the violence that stemmed from it, and also the trauma that was left in the society by it. So thank you so much for being here, Patricia, and we are eager to hear some of your reading.
When I was 23, I stood over a field of bodies in a province south of the Philippines called Maguindanao. There were 58 dead, 32 were journalists, the highest toll of murdered media workers anywhere in the world. Across the years, many more of my colleagues have been killed. We are told that the Frankfurt Book Fair for 500 years has committed to the freedom of speech and the freedom to publish. Today, we speak politely of language as a human right, when that right for 2 years has been defended in blood in Palestine by journalists who woke to drones and slept to the sounds of bombs. I meant to read an excerpt of my book today, but instead I'll be reading from journalists in the ground in Gaza, some of whom are still covering, and some who no longer can. Here, from journalist Ahmed Halal, as reported by the BBC, a cup of coffee mixed with unsweetened tea might be all you can consume during an entire workday. We suffer from severe headaches and fatigue, unable to walk from the sheer hunger, but we still carry on with the work. Here, from journalist Shrouk Al-Aila, as reported by the Columbia Journalism Review, I was filming in the camps, and I remember an old woman telling me, "Consider me as your mom. I advise you to leave this camera. This camera is going to kill you." And I told her, it killed my husband. Here, from 28-year-old Al Jazeera journalist Anas Al-Sharif, "This is my will and my final message," he wrote. "If these words reach you, know that Israel has succeeded in killing me and silencing my voice." Anas Al-Sharif filed his last story in August. His obituary, as the case for many other Palestinian journalists, was prepared in advance in the event of his death. "I have lived through pain in all its details," he wrote, "tasted suffering and loss many times, yet I never once hesitated to convey the truth as it is, without distortion or falsification, so that Allah may bear witness against those who stayed silent, those who accepted our killing, those who choked our breath, and whose hearts were unmoved by the scattered remains of our women and children, doing nothing to stop the massacre that our people have faced for more than a year and a half." Earlier this year, I spoke to a German gentleman from the book fair. He said the fair was meant for democracy and discourse, and he was aware that there was a call for Filipinos to boycott the fair. He said, and I quote, "I was speaking with colleagues, and we thought it was funny that a country from so far away feels so strongly about what is happening in Gaza. There's still an abiding belief in some circles that journalists are meant to be objective. We never are. We strive to be fair. We attempt to be accurate. We do our best to be truthful. But we are never neutral. We choose which stories to tell. We choose what words to use. We know there's a difference between an encounter and an execution, a killing and a murder, a target and a civilian, self-defense and genocide. Journalism and the killing of journalists is a war crime. To kill a journalist is a war crime, and it is not bound by any national barrier. Any person, any institution, any book fair that purports to champion free speech and the freedom to publish should condemn the killing of those who would have told the story. The dead do not publish. The dead do not speak. For us to say we defend the freedom to speak, we defend the people who would have told the story. Dead journalists tell no stories. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. And we have a couple of minutes to maybe go into a little exchange about what we heard and what we heard from you and your writing. And I think what I wanted to start out with, or want to start out with, is Patricia, with you, because we still have your the sound of what you said in our ears, which is this this motive or motto of fear. I think what you covered a lot in your book and also now is that what the Duterte government did quite well as a playbook was to use fear of drugs, fear of the violence of drugs, to create even more fear. And we see that all around the world, actually, that fear has been instrumentalized, but then it creates more fear. So you, as a person of courage, how do you create courage, and how do you actually ignite courage? Is it on?
It is difficult to claim courage. Those of us on the ground in the Philippines, we did the job. That's what we did. The courage that was shown on the ground in the Philippines were the people who dared tell us their stories. We did not live in terror every day, those of us who were on the field covering crime scenes. But the people, the witnesses, the ones who told us the gun was shot by a policeman against a man who was on the ground, those are people who dared. And our hope is that the work we do honors the courage they had. I don't think journalism's job is to inspire courage. I operate on very negotiated expectations. I don't think our job is to change the world either. Our job is to keep a record, to let people know that this is what happened, that the terrible thing is now ordinary, and it shouldn't be.
And this fear also, I was thinking about when I was reading your text again, Yegana, because what you are writing about is actually the fear that women face and the terrors that women face. But also you write a lot about, or you insinuate this question of what are regimes so afraid of that they explicitly want to control women's bodies, women's lives that much.
Yes, is it working? Yeah. Yes, and it is really sad that nowadays the saying itself, having a word itself, it seems to be dangerous. I mean, inside of Russia, for example, if you do represent something which doesn't go along with regime and what should you say, it automatically means you are under attack and you're not safe. And it's really interesting that with the beginning of war, what happened, the first thing which happened was felling of women's rights. Because now in many regions of Russia, for example, even despite it's not federal, but still women cannot make abortion anymore. even in private clinics, it's not possible. So it's really interesting that the first body which was controlled, besides the control of bodies of indigenous people or others in general, is women body. And it's always like that. It's really often starts with women body because they can produce new people. So they want to control women body in order to women to produce new soldiers. And it's really sad. And in this, so from this perspective, even saying itself, and even having the body and controlling your own body is already a protest somehow. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
And also writing about it as a female author is a double resistance in many ways.
Yes, but I do see also that my novel is not only a form of resistance, but maybe it's more a form of the re-existency. It's like, for example, we have this decolonial researcher, Hannibal Quijano, where he says about decolonial aesthesis, and he's saying that mostly what is decolonial aesthesis, and when you re-exist the lost feelings, the lost aesthesis, when you do restore the feelings which were taken from you, which were erased. So for me, writing is a form of rehabilitation of lost feelings, gustatory, sensory, visual, etc., and also the lost stories. And I want to see my writing as a shelter, as a form where the words and the experience of my family members, of all people who were oppressed, can be seen. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And this motto of control, of identity, of bodies, this is something, Nadine, that you cover as well in your work a lot. And you write both in Turkish and in Kurdish. And what I said about a double resistance as a female author, this is also sort of like a enhanced resistance once you write in Kurdish. Because this is also, the Kurdish identity is something that is being suppressed not only in Turkey, in many areas of the world where there are Kurdish people. So for you as a writer, the choice of language is also the choice of how much resistance you give.
It's working, yeah. Kurmanji is my mother tongue. Kurdish language has 5 dialects. Kurmanji is the most spoken one, but in general, the Kurdish language is spoken by over 30 million Kurds in the world. Sorry. I grew up in a village that everybody speak Kurdish language, Kurmanji. For the first time, I met Turkish language in primary school, and I want to give an example from my life for this. On the first day of school, I had a stomach, but I didn't know how to say. Oh. And until the evening, I suffered this pain, but I couldn't say to the teacher, I have a stomach. And this is just one simple example. And when you don't have an education in mother tongue, you don't have any right to determine, to clarify it to the word. So then I grew up. I spoke every day in Kurdish language, but I couldn't write even one single sentence in my mother tongue until I was imprisoned. In prison, the Turkish government silenced me to not write about human rights, about the oppression of the government. And in prison, I clung to poetry because when they put me in prison, I resumed my career there. They prevented me to writing by putting me in isolation and aggravated solitary confinement. And there I started composing poetry. And after some time, I sent the poem to outside world. They translated it into 20 languages in the world. And sometime a prison guardian came to me and he gave me a block of papers. And I saw that my poetry. So I think poetry, when the speech itself become criminalized, poetry is becoming the way of protesting.
Yes.
It's becoming the voice of voiceless. It's becoming the voice of people who doesn't have rights of freedom of expression. But for me, Kurdish language is something different because it's the language of my childhood. It's language of my village. It's the scant of my mother. It's a joke of my sister when I was a kid. So it's really important for me to resume writing in Kurdish language, in my mother tongue. At the same time, I write in Turkish, but Turkish language somehow is the language of the state that trying to assimilate me. It's the language of the police who tortured me. So, of course, Turkish language is a very nice language, but sometimes when I write in Turkish, I feel that as if I am violating my own mother tongue myself.
Thank you so much. And Martida, so we heard so much about this idea of writing having this other meaning, and you said that for you, writing is both resistance and therapy. Maybe you can explain it a little bit more, what you mean, and also writing from a prison cell, just that's something that you know as well. What have you learned about freedom of speech, writing from a prison cell?
Well, during my days in prisons, we were not allowed to read nor write. It's a crime. So it was very difficult. That's why I ended up practicing the Vipassana meditation, reading myself, since I cannot read nor write. But in terms of language, I'm not the majority people. I'm pretty mixed one, So I can understand a couple of the vocabularies from Mandarin Chinese, Fujian Chinese, and Shan language. My father is Shan, so we were allowed to meet our family members, especially my parents, only 15 minutes per 14 days. And since my father can speak a couple of the other languages, so we communicate. I just want to have some news from outside. So we communicate through English with some vocabularies from Chinese and Shan. After a couple of these interviews, the prison authority declared, not just to me, to all the prisoners should not use any languages rather than Burmese. So that was the very it was very tough at that time. So I ever believe language is identity. And language also have the power to challenge the power. That's why I always say I ever use my own authority of language to challenge the J authority, to tell them my own stories and the feelings, and to ignite them thinking about what the true freedom is. The excerpt I was reading, it's all about, after the conversation, the prison authority confessed that, Madhya, you are free, we are not. I was in prison, I'm the prisoner, but the prison officer told me, you are free, we are not. So then I think the freedom of expression, and I always believe not just the verbal language, but also the body language. When I face them, I use my body language to ignite their freedom or empathy. And I also use my creative language, the literature, to make to discover the new meanings from the similar usage and similar vocabularies. So I always believe in the power of language. I always believe in the power of the creative expressions and linguistic part of the literature. It has so much identity, freedom, culture. That's why I always say it's purely a resistance. And at the same time, the language rights, it's pretty much very difficult in terms of the legal perspective, but for us, for the creative people, there should not be the barriers. So let's use your language as not just as a therapy, but also as a resistance. That's my point.
And wonderful. And maybe this is also the last question for all of you, briefly, but starting with you, Martida, this question of in times of rising authoritarianism, we heard a silencing, killing of journalists, and also a divide that is going through the world, it seems, right? When it comes to who is upholding the truth and also the courage for the truth. How do you all keep that faith? You have all also faced oppression, you have faced dangers, what you are doing. But how do you actually keep up that faith that writing and words can actually make a difference?
Well, we just talked about the Nadim's, was under another threat, something like that. And then I just mentioned to him, this is their fear, not your fault, So we can guarantee our writing, our creativity still make them fear, make them in this fear. So let them fear, let them in fear. So that's my faith, This is the only more peaceful resistance from us with our own language and creative expressions to make them in fear, to make them in fear of facing the impunity and etc. That's my faith.
You're gonna.
Yeah, because I was facing the experience of being homeless somehow and living in a refugee camp for 10 months. So it was a really tough time for me. And I was asking myself, where is the home? And what is home actually? And suddenly I was shocked by the idea that actually words for me became the home. Because the only way why I used to write this experience, I was writing my novel. And this was the only way where I somehow ran from the reality. And I suddenly understood that actually words can be homes, and words can be shelters, and words can be place where all can be together and where love wins. And for me, my writing is a form of, is a long dinner table, and I invite all alive and deaf people and oppressed people and people who were erased to share with me. And this is how I see the words, and this is why I do love writing.
Basically, I'm taking courage from togetherness of ours. We are coming from different parts of the world, and this togetherness, this solidarity gives me hope for the future. I'm coming from Turkey, as you said. A few years ago, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said, "A book is more dangerous than a bomb and a weapon," but I don't agree with him. According to my humble opinion, we journalists, we poets, we storytellers, writers are at the same time human rights defenders. Our basic duty is human rights defenders, to protect them. Because if we stay silent, tomorrow there will be nobody left to speak.
I don't have a lot of faith in anything, but I have faith in journalism. I think for as long as we keep telling the story, as long as we keep doing the job, then we are part of a community that offers a record. This is what's happening. This is who we've lost. This is who we remember. Wars are not just fought over territory. They're fought over memory. The right to say who was the victim and who committed the assault. I hope that if we ever live, if the Philippines ever lives under circumstances that the journalists in Gaza do, I hope we have the balls to stand up the same way they did. And I hope the world will stand with us. Journalism is a tribe, it's a brotherhood, or in the case of the Philippines, it's a sisterhood. So I hope that we stand with each other, and I hope that when the truth hits us in the face, we say, yes, I recognize it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.